So I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today. I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today. And I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today. Since I'm talking about taking action, I'd invite you all to do that with me. Let's start with our eyes. I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today. I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today. I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today. Is there great energy in here right now? There is so much energy. I am just delighted to be here. And our topic that we're following this month is seconds, please. I want more. I want more. And I know that all of us want more. We want seconds in our life. We want to be filled up with that goodness. Now, a while back, I took the Power of Decision class that Reverend Allen taught here earlier, and I mentioned this before, but the reason I wanted to take that class is because one day, when it was taught last year, I was standing out here before the service talking to one of you, and she was telling me how wonderful this class had been in her life, and she said, this week, our chapter is Decide to Be Happy. And she went on and started talking about what that meant to her, and I caught my breath, and I had goosebumps on my arms, and I thought to myself, I don't think I've ever made that decision in my life, as a conscious decision to walk forward. Now, I'm happy enough, and I'm an upbeat person, but I don't think I had to choose happiness in my life as a way of being. And anytime I get goosebumps, I know that God is giving me a clue. There's something that I need to pay attention to. And so I did some reflection about this, and I realized that my family of origin, one of our core values is hard work. We work hard. We get a job, we hold that job, we work hard at that job. And I know where part of that came from because my grandfather was an alcoholic and he had a large family and he didn't work most of the time. And my grandmother taught her children the value of getting a job and working hard. So my grandmother taught my dad, and my dad taught me, and I've taught my children. Jay, haven't I taught them? We passed this hard work gene along in our family, where it's really a core value. And that bled over into a belief for me that life is hard, that life is a struggle, that you can't get anywhere without working hard, that any change you want to make, any obstacles you want to come, the harder you work, the more valuable the success is. And I think it transcended into just not more valuable, but even to be acceptable, you had to work hard to achieve or to get or to be a valuable person. So I've learned that I approach most challenges in my life with the expectation that it's going to be hard and it's going to take a lot of work. And I'm sure that there are many other people here that have that belief. I realized this during my practitioner studies, so I've been working on this for a while. But I never learned from my family of origin that I could get up in the morning and choose to be happy every day. That did not come into it. And while I realized that getting up in the morning and choosing happiness may not be possible if you're in the midst of a serious personal crisis or you've really got something going on, but peace is always possible. And I didn't learn that growing up. I've learned that when I started studying religious science. So when I started first studying religious science and science of mind and reading self-help books, I thought the more books I read, I had to work hard at this. You know, I really needed to put a lot into it. Just reading the book one time wasn't going to do it. I needed to struggle with this and figure it out. And I learned that a lot of us have that, I think, that work hard gene, or maybe it's a not enough gene. There's not enough, so I've got to really put into it everything that I've got. But as I began studying and growing, and as my faith deepened, I learned that changes just kind of began to come to me. It was easy, and I didn't struggle. And this was in conflict with that core value that it had to be hard that I had. And what I learned is that God's healing presence is given freely. We do not have to struggle for it. We do not have to work for it. It is given freely. I had to be open and willing to accept change in my life. I had to open my eyes to see that the change was being offered to me, and to just accept it, and to make a firm decision that yes, this is what I want. This is what I want in my life. About 8 years ago, when I was a hospice chaplain, I decided to take a 3-year course in spiritual direction and become a spiritual director. And this was to support my work and also to get continuing education credits. And I wasn't quite sure what a spiritual director did, but I knew I was going to become one. And it's a lot like a practitioner, if y'all want to know. Some of the techniques are a little bit different, but certainly the ideas are the same. And I had to get a spiritual director and see her once a month as part of this continuing education. So I was driving to her house, and she was someone I worked with but didn't know very well. I knew she was a Catholic nun. She was also a hospice chaplain. And I was driving to her house, and I got more and more nervous. The closer I got, I thought, well, what am I supposed to talk about when I get there? I don't have anything to talk about. And I was just really fretting about it, and I got there, and she just smiled at me, and we sat down, and she said, well, what would you like to bring to direction today? And I said, oh, I don't know. I don't really have anything to bring, but you know, the truth is, I've really been feeling a little bit disconnected from God. I'm not putting as much into it, this staying connection with God, as I should be. I'm not doing my work in the morning. I'm not praying. I pray with patience, but I don't have an active prayer life for myself, and I'm not doing much spiritual reading and meditating. I don't have time to meditate, and I'm just feeling a little disconnected. And she said, well, let me hold a space for you. Would you like to just sit quietly and tell that to God? So I closed my eyes, and I thought, well, God, okay, I'm not doing what I should. I'm not working as hard. I went through the whole thing. And I absolutely heard, after I sat quiet for a few minutes, I don't often hear God speak to me, but this time I heard God say, Susan, it just doesn't have to be this hard. And I realized that I had created this whole thing, that this was mine. And so the question is, can I open my heart? Can I open my heart to receive the gifts that God gives so freely? The insight that God gives so freely, the openness. Rather than relying on old memory patterns, old things that I carried into from my childhood, could I be open to the new? Now, I'd like to tell you a story, and that's just what it is. It is a story, and it's about my friend Mike. And Mike was one of the most positive people I have ever met. Everybody loved him. He was a natural motivator. People just flocked to him. People loved to work for him because he was always so positive. And every time you went up to Mike and said, Mike, how are you doing? He'd say, I am just terrific. If I was any better, I'd be twins. So one day I ran into Mike and I said, Mike, how you doing? And he said, I am terrific. If I was any better, I'd be twins. And I said, Mike, how do you stay so positive all the time? I don't understand that. And he said, well, it's really very easy. He said, each morning I get up and I say to myself, Mike, you've got two choices today. You can choose to be in a good mood, or you can choose to be in a bad mood. He said, I choose to be in a good mood. Each time something bad happens, I say to myself, Mike, you can be a victim, or you can choose to learn from this. And every time somebody comes to me complaining about something, I can go into their complaints and complain with them, or I can point out the positive in the situation. It's really very, very easy. And I said, I don't think it's always that easy, Mike. He said, yes, it is. Life is about choices. Cut away all the junk in life, and every situation is a choice. You choose how to react. You choose how people affect your mood. You choose whether it's good or bad. The bottom line is that you choose how to live your life. And I remembered this wisdom. I moved away and lost touch with Mike, but anytime something came up and I realized I had a choice, I would think of Mike and how he had two choices in life, and he made the choice each and every day. A couple of years after that, I heard that Mike had been in a serious accident, and he had fallen 60 feet from a communications tower, and he was very critically injured. And after 18 hours of surgery and weeks in intensive care and months in rehab, he came out of that surgery. I heard that he was kind of okay. He had rods in his back. And maybe 6 months after that, I ran into him at a convention, and I was so happy to see him. And I went running up to him and I said, Mike, how are you doing? And he said, I'm just terrific. If I was any better, I'd be twins. You want to see my scars? And I said, what was going through your mind as you were falling? And he said, I was thinking about my unborn daughter and how I wanted to be part of her life. And I was laying there on the ground, and I thought, Mike, you've got two choices. You can choose to live, or you can choose to die. I chose to live. And I said, weren't you scared? And he said, well, the paramedics were great. They just kept telling me, hang on, buddy, hang on. It's going to be okay. We're going to get you to the hospital. Just hang on, hang on. But when they wheeled me into the trauma bay and I saw the look on the nurses and doctors' faces, their look said, they just wheeled in a dead man. And he said, I knew I had to take action. So pretty soon a big burly nurse came up to me. She was bossy and loud, and she said, are you allergic to anything? And he said, I gathered all the strength I had left, and I shouted, yes, gravity. So after the doctors and nurses quieted down and they quit laughing, he said, I'm choosing to live. Operate on me as if I'm alive, not dead. So Mike lived, thanks to the skill of his doctors and his amazing attitude. That attitude made all the difference. And I learned that we have a choice in everything we do. So let's flash back to me standing here before the service one Sunday morning, and I've got goosebumps on my arms, and I'm realizing that I've never made the decision to walk through life being a happy person. I journaled about this, and my journaling, when I read it back to myself, was, I want to be happy, I want to be happy, I want to be happy. And what I realized was that I was saying, I want to be happy, but the thought I was putting out into the universe, but I don't have it yet. I want to be happy, but I don't have it yet. I want to be happy, but I don't have it yet. And in religious science, we learn to say things in a much more positive way than that. Oops. It's the microphone is speaking to me again. You know, I needed to change that and say, I am living a happy life. I am happy, and I see lots of nods here, but how often we may slip into that old way of thinking. I am happy. I choose to be happy. I'm making a decision to be happy. The words that we use are so important. We need to really be aware of the words that we use and the thoughts that we have in our head. So anytime I'm saying, I don't have it, I want it, I'm putting out the I don't have with a stronger energy than the I want it. So I'm thinking about this, making the decision to be happy. How am I going to choose happiness? And I asked myself, what would being happy, walking forward in life with that conscious decision, what would it look like? What would it feel like to me? And I thought, well, I guess I'd be, my brain was going to counting. I guess I'd be more peaceful, and I'd be more connected, and I know I'd be in charge in my life, and that was just a red flag to me, because anytime I think I'm in charge, I'm walking forward without my inner wisdom. Because let's be honest, life does happen to us. Things happen in our life that are not what we would have chosen. We get diagnoses we don't want. We get good jobs and we lose good jobs. We have relationships break up. We have family members act in self-destructive ways and we can't do anything about it. Am I on or off?
There you go.
Now you're on.
Okay. Stuff does happen to us, but what I am in control of are my thoughts and how I react to each situation. So we're going to have a slide now of what Ernest Holmes said. This is slide number 1. And Ernest said, you are the center of power in your own life. The whole thing resolves itself into our mental ability to control our thought. The man who can do this can have what he wants, do what he wishes, and becomes what he wills. Life, God, the universe is his. I'm back on. I'm obviously a little loose.
There you go.
Life, God, the universe is his. I love that statement because it really says it all. You know, until I had made the decision to be happy, I had and prepared to take action, I wasn't ready to move forward. And I know that I'm not the only one here who makes promises to themselves and then doesn't put them into language that is very positive. And I make promises that I have made to myself over and over and over again, like lose weight, exercise more, stop worrying, don't procrastinate, drink less, quit smoking. I mean, we have all these promises that we make to ourselves over and over and over. So I'm encouraging to look at that list of promises that you make to yourself and let them be the true desires of your heart. Decide what you really want, how you want to live your life, and make the decision. Because once we make that choice, we do not have to do this alone. We've got a spiritual community to support us. We've got AA, we've got Al-Anon, we've got personal trainers, we've got spiritual living groups, we've got classes, we've got coaches, you could hire a practitioner. I mean, support is all around us in so many ways to help us achieve those true desires of our heart. Now, we have another slide that comes from the Power of Decision book by Raymond Charles Barker, and this is what it says. It takes courage to practice this science and to grasp the new while letting go of the old. But the end results are so satisfying. No more boredom in which to vegetate, no more complaining about everything. Instead, there is a vital interest Purposes are born, goals are achieved. What a great promise that is. What a great promise that is. So, okay, I'm standing over here still working on this. I'm making it very hard for myself. I'm before the service wondering, I know what not to do in my life. And I know it does not have to be hard, but how do I change? And what always works for me, this is a secret, is daily spiritual practice. We have taught so many daily spiritual practices here before. And do you want to know which one works the best that you really ought to be doing? It's the one that you're going to do every day. That's the best one. That is the best one. I've talked before about the 5-5-5 morning practice, and that is a very simple one to start with if you don't have a daily spiritual practice. First thing in the morning, it is 5 minutes of reading, 5 minutes of writing, and 5 minutes of sitting. It only takes 15 minutes, first thing in the morning. The reading is anything that nourishes and inspires you. It can be a magazine article. It can be the Science of Mind magazine. It can be a sacred text. It can be a book. It doesn't matter what you read as long as you read for 5 minutes in the morning where you are open and receptive to life. The next 5 minutes is spent writing, and this comes from Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way, and it's the morning pages that she suggests, and it's writing your inner dialogue first thing in the morning. So after you're reading, get out your journal and write whatever is in your mind. And if it is, I just got up 15 minutes earlier. I'm really sleepy. I don't have anything to write in this book. I don't think this is going to work anyway. That is what you write down. You need to get that negative out of your mind. So you can't do this wrong because the negative always gives way to the positive. That's a promise. And the next 5 minutes is spent sitting. We can call it meditation, we can call it prayer, we can call it sitting. You just sit open, receptive, creating a spaciousness in you for life, to show up. And I've been doing this for 2 weeks now. I did it earlier, I had let it lapse. But I made the decision that this works for me, and I'm going to do it every day. And I know if I do it for 90 days, it'll become a habit, and I won't let it leave my life. And I know while I'm doing this, that I'm open and receptive to life. I've made a decision to change. I am taking action, and I'm claiming the power that I have within to be happy. So we have another slide. Slide 3. And this, Raymond Charles Barker says in The Power of Decision, is the affirmation to say every single morning. Every single morning. So I'm going to invite you to say this with me. I have decided to be happy. I have a right to be happy. If other people can be happy, then I can be happy. I have the same mind and emotions that they do. I now demand that my subconscious use all of its intelligence to make me happy. I know happiness is a spiritual gift, and I know this gift is already within me. So it is. And do you read that last line? I know happiness is a spiritual gift, and I know this gift is already within me. It is within you. There is a saying, you must get real to heal. In other words, your unhappiness equals the size of the lie that you may be living. We have an opportunity to stop lying to ourselves with thoughts or words like, I'm not good enough, or this is too hard, life is a struggle, change is hard, or I'm not worthy. those are not the truth in your life. We have the power to claim who we are, to decide to change, to take the action, and to be the us that we were put on this earth to be. I am a bright and shining light. You are a bright and shining light. Having a daily spiritual practice will draw our inner wisdom to the forefront of our lives, and that light will shine with even more radiance. I can see it right now. You know, God's will for us is happiness. I'm sure of that. And it can take courage to travel this road to happiness because it can take us in directions we weren't expecting. But we're born with the courage to listen, to be guided, and to follow. As we listen to divine direction and then act upon it, the universe opens up to support us in miraculous ways. We are always supported. It is a co-creative dance, and when you let love lead, happiness blossoms everywhere. If we forget that we are made in the image and likeness of a ceaseless creativity, it is ceaseless creativity. We are in the flow of creative goodness. This is our birthright, the creative goodness. Nobody gets to choose your thoughts but you. You have the power of choice, and choice is a spiritual principle. I am in the creative flow of goodness. You are in the creative flow of goodness. We are in the creative flow of goodness, and I want more of that, more of it, seconds, don't you? Yes. This is the truth in my life, and I know it is the truth in yours. Namaste.